Greetings from Manchester. I'm back here at Meadow. It's a beautiful spot. Also, I guess, known as St. Michael's Flags. 8:30 on Tuesday morning, heading back to work. And as you can see, I wouldn't say it's quiet because those guys have been quite noisy, but there's not many people around. It's funny being out at this time. There's a person walking a dog over there. Most of the people that you see out are people walking dogs, getting their mandatory exercise, people going to work, and also mostly people wearing high vis, which makes me think that the majority of the people who are out here are construction workers going to and from their jobs. I wonder how they rate on the skills chart that the government has been trying to implement, telling us that we're low skilled workers. Did an interview at the weekend. Hello. Did an interview at the weekend. I was interviewed about the emotional and physical cost of care work in the pandemic, and it was interesting. Got asked a few questions that really made me think about things, actually, and so some of it's stuff that I want to talk about now. It's 3 weeks ago this started. Today is the third week of the official lockdown, and it's my third and a bit week coming into this new job that I've got. When I originally started doing the job, there was definitely a novelty about it. Obviously, starting a new job is going to be a novel time. But in the middle of the pandemic, everyone being told to stay home, and yet I was getting paid to leave my home and go into a job every day. But definitely gave me a sense of novelty about it. Also, I've always been a bit of an outsider. I've always felt like an outsider person who's never really been able to tap into the mainstream and be part of that. It's just who I am. Made me feel even more like an outsider knowing that everyone else is getting paid to stay home or getting furloughed from their work or just losing their jobs and having to stay home and having to be not quite quarantined but isolated. And yet here's me out every day going to my job. It gives me even more feelings of being an outsider. Usually, I've gone through long periods of my life where I've been unemployed, and then long periods where I've been working, and usually there's a sense of, when you are working, that you're tapping into the kind of sense of community that goes with being in the rat race, and getting up and going to work every day at the same time as loads of other people. There is a sense of communality about it, but at the moment that's not what I'm feeling. It's quite weird. It feels, I don't know, I don't know what's going on really. One thing I have noticed though, I'm going to sit down for a minute. I went out into town on Saturday. I was coming home from work. It was my first time in Piccadilly Gardens in about 3 weeks, and the vibe out there was rough. I'm not gonna lie. The people who are in Piccadilly Gardens, most of them seem to be homeless people. Probably quite a lot of them are addicts and have issues and difficulties that they're dealing with themselves, leading to their own homelessness. But it's pretty rough. When I started, there was definitely this funny vibe of hey, we're all out here together. What are you doing out here? I'm out here. Isn't it fucking crazy? And now the novelty of that has worn off, and it's yeah, it's fucking crazy. What are we doing out here? So many people who, I keep saying, don't have the choice. They literally do not have the choice to be isolated because they'll lose whatever little they already have. And it's getting more and more intense. The people who have very little already are already losing everything, and it's changing their demeanour around town. And I'm not blaming them, but when I walked through Piccadilly Gardens, there was a noticeably rough vibe. It was edgy. So many homeless people there. Their main means of income of begging for money has been taken away from them because nobody's using cash at the moment, and very little people around to actually get money from. So yeah, it's just a bit weird. Sorry, there was a gentleman passing there and I didn't want to intrude on his private little moment with his dog, so I thought I'd turn the camera off, but it didn't work, so we're still rolling. So yeah, too long, didn't listen. My point is that the vibe out here is changing a bit. When I first started, there was definitely a bit of this is an adventure, how are we going to get through this vibe? And as the time is grinding on, it's becoming less and less like an adventure and more like a real slog. I think a lot of it's got to do with We just don't really know what's going on. There's not public testing going on yet. We don't know if the figures are right. People are still dying in swathes, in loads, in really high numbers now. And it just makes me fear getting the bus in the morning if it's busy, and sometimes it has to be busy because there's so many people. We don't have a choice. Can't sit more than 6 feet away from someone on the bus because every seat is already taken, because that's how many people need to get into work. People aren't out here fucking around. Like, I'm not out here fucking around. I'm out here because I have to be out here. Thus, I take the little opportunity to fuck around when I am out here because it makes me feel a bit better, and it just gives me a chance to get stuff off my chest. But anyway, I'll just want to say, I don't know where we are at the moment in terms of vibe and public opinion and that, but getting the bus into work and walking to and from my actual workplace, still I like it. I love the exercise, but it's getting less fun, I think. But one thing I would like to do is maybe try and interview some people who I stop and pass on my daily commute. That might be an interesting thing. I don't know how to go about that, though. I don't know how to go about that while respecting people's autonomy and wanting to stay away from me and stay away from each other. But I really would like to speak to some other people who are out here. If there's anybody who's watching this who's also a key worker and has to go to work in the morning, maybe we could coordinate and we could meet somewhere and we could do a socially distanced interview, and we would speak very loudly so it'll pick it up on my phone. Either way, I don't know. All right, back to work. I'm just going to take another little quick look at this gorgeous place.